My name is Hiram. I am a silversmith. I am the son of a silversmith. I am very blessed to have 2 children and a beautiful wife. But even beyond that, I am blessed to be a follower of Jesus and to join him on his mission. But let me digress from my story. See, I grew up in Galilee, beautiful part of the area surrounding Jerusalem. Grew up in a very small community, played with kids, did my daily chores, and there's this one girl that caught my eye from a very young age. When we became teenagers, I went and asked my father, "Father, please go talk to her father and ask if I may have her hand in marriage." My father did. They consummated our wedding vows with a cup of traditional wine. We were now engaged, betrothed to be married. What an exciting time for both of us. But that meant I had to do a lot of work. I needed to add on to my father's house for my bride. And every day after work, I would go and I would begin to build our house. Now the problem was that my prospective father-in-law would come over every evening to inspect what I had done the day before. And this got old very, very quickly when he would tell me, "This is right, this is wrong, this is what you need to do better. This is my daughter. You understand? You will build her the perfect house." Well, after 2 weeks of that, he gave up coming each and every day, and he only came weekly. I knew there was a methodology to that because he wanted to get me going on the right road, the right way from the very beginning. It didn't take me but 9 months to build an addition to my father's house. And now we could be married and celebrate, and we did. We celebrated husband and wife. Well, it's been 5 years since our wedding. We now have 2 children. Business is going well, but if I really want to do better, I need to move out of the Galilee where there's a big trade route in Jericho. So I moved my family where the money can be made. I can buy and I can sell silver, and I can make. And besides that, another blessing is Jerusalem is only 15 miles away, straight up the mountain. There we can go and celebrate the Passover yearly. Well, let me tell you a little bit more about my story. My children, they're dear to me. My wife is dear to me. I'm in business in Jerusalem, and my son's birthday is that evening. So late in the afternoon, I leave because I know in 4 hours walking downhill, I can be home in time for supper, celebrating my son's birthday. I'm skipping along just thinking about what's going to happen in our family that evening. I can see down in the valley Jericho, 3 miles to go. I come across this little ridge and walk around the corner, and 3 men jump out of a cave. And they say, "We demand your money and your clothing." Well, as a good, hardworking person, I'm not going to give up my money, and I'm sure not going to run around naked and give up my dignity. So I get these 2 guys together, and I haul off, and I hit the first person that's standing right in front of me, right square in the teeth. I can feel my knuckles bearing right into his teeth. The next man jumps on my back, I throw him over, and the third man hits me on the side of the head with a rock, knocking me to the ground. Blood is gushing out of the side of my face, and I know 3 against 1 is not good odds. They kick me, they pummel me, and finally I lose consciousness. I awake later, my clothes are gone, I'm naked, and all of my money. And I'm thinking, I have missed my son's birthday. I miss my wife. I miss my family. As I lay there on the side of the road, I recognize my ribs are broken. I need to lay on my left side, and the blood just streams down my face, covering my eyes. And all of a sudden, through the blood, I see a priest. And I say, "Help me." He walks close to me, looks at me. I look half dead to him, and he said, I can't touch you because I will defile myself. And he walks by. I lay there in and out of consciousness, and all of a sudden I hear footsteps. I see the rocks come tumbling down the path. And here's a Levite. And I cry out, please have mercy upon me. He says, what happened to you, Jew? You must have deserved this. And he walked right on by. And I thought, wow, Lord, please send me someone who will save me. Help me. Lord, I don't want to die here on this road. As I'm laying there, I hear hoofbeats getting closer and closer. And I look up, and on the top of the donkey is a Samaritan. And I said, God, why did you send me a Samaritan? He's going to kill me. The Samaritan dismounts from his donkey, stands over me, and all I could picture in my mind is that he was going to kill me and throw me down the ravine. The Samaritan looks at me, he turns back to his donkey, grabs a flask off of his donkey. I didn't know what it was, but he bends down, cradles my head, blood is gushing over his garment, and he gives me wine, the fruit of the vine, the nectar of God that revives me. And now my eyes are open even though there's blood still streaming down. Then he lays me back down. He goes back to his donkey and gets another flask of oil. When he gets the other flask, he still has the flask of wine. And he pours it on this big gash beside my eye, and it burns and it singes my flesh. I cry out in pain. And he surveys my other wounds, and he pours oil and wine in them. And then, to my amazement, he takes off his cloak and he clothes me. Blood-stained cloak I now wear. As he picks me up, I can feel my ribs going into my flesh, and I pass out. The next day I wake way late in the afternoon in an inn. I am bandaged and sutured. I wondered, how did I get here? I missed my son's birthday. How will I tell them? How will they ever forgive me? I imagine my wife is hysterical right now. I asked the innkeeper, how did I get here? He said, a Samaritan brought you in. He fixed you up. He patched you up. He gave me 2 denarii to take care of you for a couple of days. I said, a Samaritan? He did this for me? What was his name? He said, his name is Jesus. Jesus became a very special name to me. Anybody who was called Jesus was now my friend, because this Jesus, this Samaritan, saved my life. Well, it's been 2 years since that incident with that Samaritan. I heard about another Jesus from Nazareth. Since we had lived in Galilee, we wanted to go and see this Jesus from Nazareth. So we packed up our family and we trekked back to our home village. It was great to see Grandma and Grandpa. The kids loved it. But we heard about Jesus being out in the wilderness. So we said, let's bake some bread, dry some fish, and let's take it with us so we'll need some food for our provisions. So we traveled to where people were going. And there was this Jesus out there. And he was talking about grace and love and mercy and forgiveness. Things that I had never heard as a young Jewish boy. Then something he said to me really resonated. You cannot serve God and money. Well, I have to tell you, I was quite successful. And money was my God. But this Jesus, when he said these words, it changed my life. It reminded me of 2 years back when this Samaritan took out of his own purse to take care of my needs. And when I began to see this, I began to recognize that God was calling me, Hiram, to meet the needs of others, to see where the kingdom of God's grace was where people were in need. Well, it's getting late, getting dark. We're hungry, about ready to eat. When the disciples come around and ask, does anyone have any food? Well, yes, we have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, but what will that do? They said, may we use it. We saw this as a God moment. Maybe Jesus would do something with our bread and our fish. The disciples had us all sit down. We did. We ate. We were filled. We were satisfied. We went back to our family that evening talking about Jesus. How Jesus had fed 5,000 men plus women and children. We were witnesses and we were awestruck that Jesus would use our bread, our fish, to feed the population. Well, we had to travel back because business was waiting. Business was successful. It's been 2 years since we saw Jesus in the wilderness. It's now Passover time, and we're making that journey once again because of the excitement of going to God's temple and worshiping God and sharing God's love and sharing Passover with family in Jerusalem. As we're in Jerusalem, we hear that Jesus is coming. So we go to the street, and there are people yelling, Hosanna to the one who is the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And as we see Jesus, I notice that Jesus is riding a donkey. And that reminds me of the other Jesus in my life. Jesus the Samaritan who saved me. Could this be the Messiah, the one who has come to save God's people? Could this Jesus of Nazareth be David's son? What joy, what excitement that day seeing Jesus ride in and everybody proclaiming him as Messiah. Feast of Passover has come. We're sitting down with family, enjoying the meal and worshiping at the temple. I got up early Friday morning, couldn't sleep, walking down some of the city streets, and I hear a buzz going on. They've captured Jesus of Nazareth. He's at Pilate's palace right now. They're trying him for insurrection and for claiming he's a king. Later on, I hear that Jesus is being led away to be crucified. I can't believe my ears. What has this Jesus done? Why would they kill him? I have to see for myself. I go to Golgotha, and there's a man hanging on the cross, beaten, disfigured. It says, Jesus, King of the Jews, above him, crown of thorns. And the first words I hear out of his mouth is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I'm amazed that Jesus can pray for these people who are killing him. It now is an eerie darkness all over the land. It's like it's night, but it's still day. Then I see Jesus say, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And he quits breathing. And at that point in time, my heart breaks. I was hoping that this Jesus of Nazareth would be our Messiah, the one that God had promised for hundreds of years. Great disappointment. I go back to my family and I share the bad news, and we all mourn. This Jesus who we saw proclaiming good news, feeding 5,000, is now dead outside of Jerusalem. We rest on Sabbath, and on Sunday we leave to go back to Jericho. As we're going down the mountain, some men run behind us and say, Jesus' tomb is empty. Some say someone stole his body. Others say he's alive. We don't know what to believe. We have no idea what happened to Jesus. We go about our business. 2 weeks later, I'm back in Jerusalem for business, and I see Jesus' disciples proclaiming that Jesus is alive. Could this be true? Jesus is alive. People are being baptized. People are confessing their faith in Jesus. This leads me back to the other Jesus in my life, Jesus, the Good Samaritan. He taught me that Jesus goes across cross-cultural boundaries. Jesus is willing to risk his life to save another life. Jesus is a man who talks about grace and show God's grace. My life has been changed. I now see Jesus out in the community in mission because I see needs. And when I see a need, I see a calling. I see my calling as his follower. You see, I'm not a Jesus salesman, but I am a disciple of Jesus. I believe in Jesus. I believe that Jesus died and rose again. I believe that Jesus died for me. And I believe that he will come again as he has promised. I believe Jesus is in your community as well. The question is, do you believe that Jesus is in your community? Your pastor has asked me today is to have you take out the card that's in your bulletin. It's talked about a God sighting. When have you seen Jesus lately in your community? Now, I'm guessing on October the 2nd, I heard that you guys had a storm. I was not here. But I heard that there were some God sightings. You had an opportunity to spend time with neighbors because your trees were down, your fences were down. A great opportunity to talk about your safety and your wellness and how God protected you. I even heard there was a God sighting here at Grace Lutheran and our Grace Lutheran Early Education Program. All of our children were down in the basement in this building, and the teachers were singing Jesus songs to help them weather the storm. I call that a Jesus sighting. So this morning I encourage you, as your pastor encourages you, is to take a moment and write down, where have you seen God lately? And the reason that your pastor would ask you to do this is so that you can put your cards out here on the glass rail. And this is a testimony of us visually seeing Jesus in our community. Well, let me give you an example. What I saw when I came to church this morning. I saw the sun rise. That was my God sighting this morning. I saw it as a magnificent opportunity to start a brand new day. But you probably have a different one. So I will encourage you right now, in the last 2 weeks, how have you had a God sighting? And the opportunity to tape that card to that glass is a living, breathing testimony of seeing Jesus in our community. So right now, would you write down how you've seen Jesus? Give you a moment. I hope I have given you an opportunity to think about where you've seen Jesus, an opportunity to see Jesus, an opportunity to see his kingdom. Shalom.